Je vais céder la parole à M. Mohamed MALOUCHE, qui est le président de l'association Tunisian American Young Professionals et qui va assurer le rôle de modérateur de cette première session. Si Mohamed.
Merci, c'est Hichem. Monsieur le ministre, madame, messieurs les panélistes, mesdames et messieurs, bonjour et bienvenue à cette session au cours de laquelle nous allons traiter des atouts, mais également des challenges de la Tunisie en tant que destination d'investissement. Alors nous allons parler dans un premier temps des efforts qui ont été déployés au niveau de la lutte contre la corruption, de la transparence, de la gouvernance, qui sont des ingrédients principaux à un climat d'investissement sain. Et puis dans un deuxième temps, nous allons parler des atouts de la Tunisie, des avantages comparatifs de la Tunisie, mais également des challenges que la Tunisie doit surmonter. Cette session va être modérée en anglais, mais évidemment, si nos panélistes souhaitent s'exprimer en français, ou bien si tout à l'heure, quelqu'un dans l'audience souhaite poser une question en français, c'est tout à fait possible. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for attending this session. We are going to talk about the investment climate in Tunisia, and specifically we're going to talk about the efforts that have been deployed in terms of transparency, in terms of fighting corruptions, in terms of good governance. And then we're going to talk as well about Tunisia's value propositions, the comparative advantages of Tunisia, but also the challenges that Tunisia has to face and Tunisia must overcome. So we have a great panel of officials and experts today with us. And before I introduce them to you, let me just share a couple of stories with you. I have the privilege to lead a Tunisian diaspora association, Tunisians who live in the United States and who promote Tunisia's image and Tunisia's value propositions to US investors. And when we go and talk about Tunisia, often case what we found out is that a number of people don't know exactly what Tunisia is all about. They have an idea, but they don't know exactly what Tunisia is all about. And so what you do when you don't know about Tunisia is that you show up in a meeting like this one and you Google Tunisia like 5 minutes before, and then when you Google Tunisia, you get everything from the bad, the ugly, the good, everything. And so we decided to adopt that as a practice, and before every important meeting like this one, we decided to as well Google Tunisia. And this morning I went and Googled Tunisia, and given that we're talking about investment challenges and opportunity, I went and I Googled first Tunisia investment challenges. And I've gotten 5 million hits, 5 million challenges for Tunisia. And I'll talk about those challenges in a second. I also went and Googled Tunisia investment opportunities, and I did not get 5 million hits. In fact, I've gotten 50 million hits, 10 times more, which is just an anecdote to tell you that Tunisia truly has a number of opportunities, amazing opportunities that exist in this country. And if you're all first movers and grabbing these opportunities at the earliest stage possible, then you can win big. And you can position yourself really to grab not only the best opportunities right now, but also position yourself for future opportunities. Now, let me get back to the question of challenges, because Tunisia is going through a transition period, and obviously Tunisia is undergoing a number of challenges. So here's what Google says. Google says that the number one challenge for Tunisia right now, post-revolution Tunisia, is safety, security, and stability. Not a surprise, right? Well, let me say this about safety and security and stability. Tunisia is going after, essentially we're in a post-revolution climate. I think it's expected to have safety and stability challenges to deal with. But what's more important, I think, for investors is that Tunisia has the right ingredients to be predictably stable. Predictable stability is very important for investors because Tunisia is an educated population. It has a track record of being a moderate country for hundreds of years. It's a country where women are vibrant. It's a country that's overwhelmingly pacifist. And those are the right ingredients to have a country that's predictably stable. And predictable stability is very important for investment. Let me talk about the second challenge that I found out in Google. The second challenge was corruption and transparency. And this is exactly the topic of our discussion today. So I'm going to let our speaker talk about that. But let me say one thing, given that I'm a civil society person. What's very important and what has changed in Tunisia in the past year and a half is the role of civil society. There's an amazing rise of civil society and specifically civil society scrutiny. Civil society is scrutinizing everything. That's your best guarantee for a transparent environment. And then the third challenge that Google yielded was the size of the market. You know, we often hear that Tunisia is a small market. Well, in that particular case, I would say size does not matter in this particular case. Why? Because, as indicated yesterday by a number of the panelists, Tunisia has been for years an international trade hub. It was the granary of Rome in the antiquity. It's in the major trading routes of the Mediterranean. And so if you view Tunisia as part of your North Africa and Middle East expansion plan, then it constitutes the perfect hub. It has the ingredients to be the hub in terms of its strong fundamentals that we're going to talk about, in terms of the transparency that's being acquired through the revolution, and also because it has comprehensive trade agreements and trade relations with pretty much everybody in this region. So I just wanted to share with you some of these observations. And before I introduce our panelists, I want to share with you one last thought, which is we are all here to talk about Tunisia's value proposition as a country. But to me, I think there's something even more important than Tunisia's value proposition. It's the Tunisian people. It's your Tunisian partners. You know, I was talking to a senior vice president of a major US corporation that has operation in Tunisia today, and I was asking him, what brought you to Tunisia? Was that because Europe was close by? Was that because of the competencies? Was that because, what were the reasons? And he said, yes, all of the above, but the most important reason why we are here today in Tunisia is Tunisian competencies. We found a Tunisian SME that had great ideas, innovative ideas, that had a software that we wanted to buy. We acquired the company, we pushed operations in Tunisia, and now we're employing 500 engineers here in Tunisia. So I encourage you as investors to look around you and talk to Tunisian SMEs and Tunisian companies and Tunisian partners, see what their differentiators are, see what their innovative ideas are, because at the end of the day, it's a matter of people. So let me go ahead and introduce our distinguished panelists in the order they're going to speak. We're going to start with Dr. Azzdine Saiden, who is a veteran banker and the CEO of Directway Consulting. And Dr. Saiden is going to give us an overview of the current situation in Tunisia, as well as some highlights of Tunisia's value proposition. We're then going to tackle the topic of corruption with Mr. Kamel Ayadi, who is the regional representative of the Global Infrastructure and Anti-Corruption Center, and also the past president of the World Federation Engineering Organization. And Mr. Ayadi is going to give us his diagnosis of the situation, the extent of corruption in Tunisia, and what is being said by international reports as far as corruption in Tunisia. We're then going to move to Mr. Semir Anebi, who is the president of l'Instance Nationale de la Lutte contre la Corruption, who's going to help us understand what's being done at the governmental level to tackle this immense problem that is corruption. And then we will follow up with Madame Mathilde Ménard, who is the advisor to the Secretary General and Clean Gov Biz Coordinator at the OECD. Mrs. Ménard is going to share with us best practices to limit corruption, and is also going to talk about the recent agreement that the Tunisian government has signed with the OECD relative to transparency. Then we're going to move on to Tunisia's comparative advantages and Tunisia's value proposition. And Mr. Hussein Dimessi, who is our Minister of Finance here in Tunisia, is going to talk about the comparative advantages of Tunisia, with certainly a focus on the fiscal advantages and the financial and economic openness of Tunisia. And then, last but not least, Mr. Thierry Courtein, who is the CEO of MEDEF International, will talk about best practices on how to strengthen the investment framework in Tunisia and make it more attractive. So, with this presentation, let me turn quickly to Mr. Saiden to set the stage for us. And Mr. Azdin, let me ask you, give us an overview of the situation in Tunisia today and sort of highlights about Tunisia's comparative advantages and so also the situation about corruption. Thank you.